Welcome to the Thrive Today podcast. I'm Natalie Born. I'm the media host for Thrive Today and the founder of Innovation Meets Leadership. Look, we are a platform for women who lead and believe. And today we are speaking to Elana van Deventer. And Elena's journey encompasses launching a new nonprofit organization. We'll talk about that nonprofit organization. We'll talk about her holding different positions of leadership within the church and using her voice to instill hope in hearts and minds. Not only has she contributed to various leadership publications, but she has also a trailblazer facilitating for Dr. Caroline Leaf's Neurocycle program, which we all love Dr. Caroline Leaf. So excited about that. And she recently completed her studies at Wharton Executive Education, understanding the brain. Smart lady here. Excited to have you on, Elana.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to spending some time with you and all the listeners.
Well, look, as we get started, first of all, what an incredible path that you've been on. I'd love for you just to share a little bit about your background, how you got started, and how did you get into like the brain science piece? Like you got to be pretty smart to do that.
I first have to go back and let you know that I think that is the perspective we have regarding people that studies the brain and the mind. And I actually had a brain injury at a very young age. And so that's where it all started. And I believe that God gives meaning to everything. So I always mention that because for 40 years, I felt like I'm not enough, not capable, not deserving. And I had all these limiting beliefs regarding myself. And I had all this evidence as well of how I struggled to study. It was just always a struggle. The reason that happened to me, I think it's just like, how incredible when I look back now, I see how it almost, the puzzle, like it just comes together. And so that's part of my story. And then just to fast forward to where I'm now, I just believe that it was really just digging into this pain point and almost this gap that I noticed. I suffered with depression, severe depression a couple of years ago, and I went through this journey of healing. And I started a coaching program because I felt like I was revived from the inside out. And when I say from the inside, really from my mind inside out. And so I started a coaching program because I realized what was wrong in my own journey was there was a realignment that needed to happen. And so an identity alignment. And so I created this program from absolutely nothing, just life experiences, no formal education and coaching whatsoever, and really just from my own journey and healing. And what I noticed, I remember, and Natalie, when I had all these women signed up for the first week, I only had the first week planned out.
Wow.
And I realized that so often we build things for ourselves, but when we almost like jump and build our wings on the way down, and we in it, we get that feedback and we build it for actually the people that needs it. So that just it removed a lot of fear in my life as well. I also know now what fear is for and how valuable it is and how incredible guide it is for us. But I only had the first week planned out, and I had this coaching program for quite a while. But I realized that even though we have all these tools, that there was a missing piece. There was a gap from them knowing to where they were applying it and embodying it and walking it out. And so that really led to me on this journey of digging into what is that missing piece? Why is it that we take our clients on this journey, and it's almost like we go on a plane, like transformation is like flying a plane, right? We have the tools for the taking off, and we give them all the tools for the landing. And I realized that the missing piece is the engine, and it's the mind. And so that led to me, and there's so much that I can tell regarding how I got to Dr. Caroline Leaf, but I applied and I did it with my eyes closed. And when I say I literally hit send with my eyes closed, because at that stage, I still had this belief that I'm not enough, I'm not capable, I'm a failure. And I did it with my eyes closed. I hit send, and I always tell my clients, do it even if you have to do it with your eyes closed. And I ended up getting certified. And that's where it all started. I just love, 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 because that's where I received my freedom as well. My lasting and sustainable healing and transformation came from addressing those beliefs and addressing the root of it. The, I had the tools always, but I didn't address the root. And then obviously now just going into the avenue of neuroscience and business. How can we use neuroscience to gain better business results? So it's just like the one led to the other.
Oh, I love it. It's really cool to hear your journey. And there's a couple things I just want to pull forward that I heard in your journey. I mean, the first one is oftentimes, the place of our pain becomes really the place of our purpose. And it seems like that's what happened for you, which is really incredible to hear your story. And I think as other people are listening and they hear, hey, I did it, but I did it afraid. I'm hoping that for all of our women out there listening who want to start something but haven't done it yet or are afraid to listen to your journey and just glean from the fact that you can do it afraid. Just do it, right? Just put one foot in front of the other. And I just love that about your story.
That's so true. Do it afraid. I remember I always felt like this. We all know there's something for us, right? And I feel I remember we used to have these t-shirts, and I'm giving my age away yet, but we all had these t-shirts. Be fearless. And I realize at 40 years old, I still have that feeling of fear. It's and I realize what it's intended for. It is really what happens when as soon as we even just consider doing something, we can expect resistance. We
Mhm.
can expect a highlight reel of why this is a bad idea. And so we can expect that, because what happened internally is that it's just like your mind, and your mind drives your brain. So there's a scanning that happens. And if you don't have evidence of that you've survived this new unfamiliar idea before, yes, I care for you.
Yeah.
Want to keep you safe. Let's not do this. But then we obviously, when we step towards it, and I'm like, you don't have to do it all. You just start slowly. It's like you starting to go to the gym after a year. You decide you're gonna do something new. You don't go in and you pick up the 100-kilogram dumbbell. And so often we do try and do that with our minds. And so we set ourselves up for procrastination and sabotage, which is an emotional regulation issue. And so and also even with affirmations, we don't meet ourselves where we are at. And then we go into this toxic spiral of shame and guilt. And there must be inherently something wrong with me, because this should lead to this, X should lead to Z, but it's not how we are designed. Scripture tells us that I've set you apart, and science affirms that the way you think, you feel, you choose is unique to you. There's no one like you. So it's really walking into this new experience, and start with the little dumbbell.
Mhm.
And that's that muscle that you train. And all of a sudden you put some little evidence in that bank, which was before on zero, and you slowly, that competency confidence loop, even confidence. I was like, I just need enough confidence to actually do this. It's a muscle that we train. It's not something that you are born with. It's simply thinking, feeling, and choosing over and over. And the more you do it, the more competent you feel. And the more you do it, the more confident you feel. I love even the word of confidence that I was
Good.
this thing that I was searching for was confidence. When I digged into what is it that I want? What is this feeling that I desire? When we look at the true definition of confidence, it means verdier. And the definition is trust once with. It's a process of trusting yourself little by little, you on a journey of finding yourself again as well in this whole process of entrepreneurial journeys that we are on. It is really, you constantly trust yourself a little bit more every time you step out.
I love that. That's so good. Well, I want to I want to kind of like shift a little bit and talk about your article. It's not that big of a shift because a lot of what you're talking about is in your article, but you wrote about anchors for inner stability. And I feel like when you're stepping out to do something you've never done before, when you are stepping out, I feel like what happens is every insecurity that you've ever felt about anything starts to come to the surface. And so the beauty about a comfort zone is it's comfortable and you don't get hit with all the reasons why you can't do something. But the moment you put one foot out there, even a toe to try something new, you get kind of attacked or hit with all of these reasons why you're not good enough, why you'll never make it, why you're not the one to do what you're called to do. And I love kind of taking that and looking at it from a standpoint of inner stability.
Inner stability, that's such a key thing that we need in a world that's ever changing. That is the only guarantee there is change, right? I also think that the comfort zone can feel uncomfortable. I want to print some t-shirts for my clients, actually seek discomfort.
Mm.
Because I feel like when there's no discomfort in what we're doing, then we're doing a to-do list because that is comfortable. We can do this easily. So I am on a journey. If I have to summarize my journey, I'm on a journey of seeking discomfort. I want to, and again, you have to choose which one. When we are about to step into something new and broaden our comfort zone, if we can call it that, then there is obviously we have this upper limit as well. And the temperature feels comfortable in a sense. But there's something that you want to do. So there's even in that comfort, there's discomfort. So it's you have to choose which one is costing you more.
Mhm.
And then you have to slowly pursue it.
Wow. Well, and I wonder too if you figure out over time that what costs you more is to stay in your comfort zone, right? If you were to look at it, and I think this is a beautiful question to ask. If I don't do this, what will I not get the benefit of in a year, 2
Yeah.
years, 3 years?
That's so good. Love it. It's, yeah, what is it because change happens, even with when you have those self-doubt, and I will get to that just now, but because we can address it, we can rewire, we can neuroplasticity, renewal of the mind is really where it's at. But there is this really let me go there first before these whatever beliefs we have, like we've gathered along the way. We have story. It's part of our story. It's part of our experiences. These things someone might have said it to you. I remember my maths teacher told me in grade 6, you are stupid and you will get nowhere in life, because I struggled. I had a learning disability.
Wow.
And so that was a label that was put on me. But the thing is, when I actually digged into that, because for long I've thought that's the reason why I am just choosing to be uncomfortable in a comfortable zone.
Mhm.
And because I am stupid, I will never get anywhere. So I started believing, and we form these neurological pathways that becomes like highway. So it's well traveled. So whenever there's a trigger, or when we just think something, there's so much evidence that's been built up.
Yeah.
So that's what really gets us stuck. But what I realized is when I done this journey of taking my thoughts captive and renewing my mind, which takes 63 days to do,
Wow.
change happen either way. So again, that's again about thinking, feeling, and choosing. Which one are we choosing? Free will, right? So you could either choose to sit in it, like you said, in a year's time, what would I have missed out on? You can either choose to be on this path. The change is still going to happen, but it's going to happen in an unhealthy way. Or you can choose to make the changes slowly but surely.
Mhm.
And the guaranteed is again the change. It's happening either way, and it's our responsibility to. And that's what I don't like about labeling. It's disabling, but it also removes the responsibility.
Yeah.
And so when we dig into, and when I did my own, and I love that Dr. Leaf made us do our own neurocycle. We had to deal with our own stuff. And I can also say with honesty that I haven't completed anything until I've done my first Neurocycle. I haven't completed any studies because again, you will always receive evidence of what you believe as truth. So if you
Mhm.
have a belief that I'm not capable, you will start off willpower and motivation is there, but it's fleeting. So once that's gone, you will always refer back to that belief because again, your life heads in the direction of your most dominant thoughts. And that belief that I picked up that I thought was that teacher that said that to me, it was actually just one of my memories. My when I done my journey of healing from the root and addressing where this belief was, we call it origin story, I realized it was my 3-year-old self when my dad left. My dad is a lieutenant general. He left to go for more training. And as a 3-year-old girl, my dad is my hero. He's still my hero. He left to create a better life for us. That communication never happened. And as a 3-year-old, honestly, I would have not even understood what he's saying to me. But I took it as I'm not enough for my dad to stay. So when I dig into it, and it was a slow process of deconstruction, that's how we take our thoughts captive. When we take it, we can't solve it here. We have to take it captive and see it. And once we see it, we can actually deconstruct it. And then we can reconceptualize it because I was able to reconceptualize it and see it that it was nothing. It wasn't because of me that my dad left. He actually left because of us to create a better future for us as a
Wow.
family. But I was totally unaware of it. And so when I could heal that, now it's not part of my framework anymore. I deconstructed it, I stabilized and grew a new belief. And now I'm operating, it's a new highway for me. And now I'm operating on that instead of this old belief that led the way, to be honest.
I've heard someone say it's not what happened, it's how you interpreted it. And I think that that's a beautiful example of it's not that he left, it's what did you interpret? What was the story you told yourself about why he left? And then how did that now impact your whole entire life, right? And I think we all have those moments where the situation was the situation, but then we interpret it as something so different, and it really changed the course of the way we saw ourselves, the way we interacted with others. It really did a number on us, and I love that we're having this conversation because I think almost everybody can have at least one example, if not 5, of it's not what happened, it's how I perceived and interpreted and received what happened. I completely went to a different place in my mind, and sometimes we can go back and even have those conversations. Sometimes we can't because the person might be gone. But going back and even allowing God speak into that, allowing the Holy Spirit to speak into that, and to get a new reality, that is so powerful because that's really what we need in order to move forward and to do what we feel called to do. It's hard to do that when you feel like you're carrying a suitcase of regrets or a suitcase of rejection right behind you when you're trying to move forward.
That's so true. Thoughts are thoughts are real, but they're not always true. And even our perspective, it's one of our warning signals. If we have a perspective, when we dig into that and we ask ourselves, I have this one question that I often ask my clients: who told you this?
Mm,
Who told you this? And we quickly get to the the because, the root, the why. But we have all these beautiful warning signals that we can take hold of that's guiding us to the reason, the why. And then once we have that, we can shift it, we can reconceptualize it, and we can actually move on instead of just adding it to the bank of evidence that already. The fact that the teacher told me that was actually not a shock because I already believed it about myself. My
mm.
mom and dad, I think, were more shocked than what I was. One thing that we can do that I can just give as a tool is what we call multiple perspective advantage. Often when we feel all these emotions, and emotions are actually just this beautiful messenger and guide that we have. But obviously, there's been a lot of programming that's happened. So emotions was labeled as good and and bad. The fact that we have good and bad emotions is just because we've labeled them as that. So there's actually just a 90-second chemical reaction that happens in our body when we have an emotional reaction to something. What happens after that is actually just us choosing to stay in that. And what happens from that, the story that we create from that, that is what sticks.
Mm.
So when we use those emotions, we are aware of it. Oh, I feel this way. Why am I feeling this way? Who, where, when, what? W questions. Ask yourself some questions. That's how we take our thoughts captive, and use our warning signals. But then multiple perspective advantage. It's a quick one that you can just ask yourself, what advice would I give someone else? Because now I'm not the victim anymore, because you also distance yourself from the emotion because you have an objective view of the situation. What advice would I give someone else that's going through this or thinking this? And then we gain different perspective, which is something that we can use to shift out of that emotion and move on, instead of creating a story from it and then obviously allowing that to stick.
Yeah. That's so good. I mean, I think this is such an important vantage point. You said something, and then I'm not a victim anymore. And I think that it's there's so many of us walking around like the victim. And unfortunately, when you start to see yourself as a victim, you know, everyone is an aggressor. And it's really hard to move forward and see things for what they are when you're so living under that victim mentality. And I love that you said that, because that is something that we need to work on breaking off of our lives. And to your point, doing some of this work enables us to see things rightly as though they are, not as we saw them through the filter, the victim filter that we're living through. And I think that's so critical and so important for even being a woman, honestly, in business, right? It might be very easy to see everything through the lens of, well, I didn't get that because I was a woman, or I didn't get that because of this, versus saying, I didn't get that because I didn't work hard enough. I didn't get that because I didn't bring the right things to the table. What can I do differently next time? When we are outside of that mentality, we're able to improve. When we're inside of that victim mentality, there's no way we can improve because it's always someone else's fault. And I just love, love, love that you brought that to the table.
That's so well said. It removes the ownership.
Yeah, this is so good. Well, what final thoughts would you have for our listeners today? I can't believe our time has gone so fast. You're somebody that we have to have back because, like, the conversation is just so rich and you have so much wealth of knowledge in this area that I feel like you've got to come back and join us again. But what would your final thoughts be? How can people find and follow you?
On Instagram, I am very active in my DMs. I love connecting with voice messages. So if you want me to reply the quickest, go on Instagram. Find me on Instagram, Elana v. Deventer, or email me at ilana.neurocycle@gmail.com. Those are probably the quickest ways to get hold of me.
Well, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you with us. Thank you so much for your time today, Elena.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us for the Thrive Today podcast. Be sure to follow, share, subscribe on all of your social media platforms, and tell other women in leadership about this podcast. If you haven't taken time to get into community, let me ask you a question. What are you waiting for? Head over to thrivetoday.com, sign up to receive coaching, plus monthly resources at your fingertips. Well, ladies, we'll see you next time, and don't forget to thrive.